Russia's military operations and Congress's response to the war on Ukraine. Let's bring in Florida Republican Congressman Scott Franklin. He's a member of the House Armed Services Committee and the House Committee on Oversight and Reform, and a former naval aviator who saw tours in Bosnia and Kosovo. Congressman, I'm sure, like the rest of us, you are watching this war go on with rapt attention. Vladimir Putin now says his forces have unleashed a hypersonic missile against Ukraine. There's no confirmation of that, but if it's true, what does it tell you?
Well, good evening, John. Thank you. Yeah, you're right. We don't have confirmation of that. I haven't had any hearings on it yet. But the fact that he would actually even make that statement would tell us that he's significantly ramping up his rhetoric. That's a signal to the West more than anything else that he's not ready to end this anytime soon. And the fact that those hypersonic weapons could be equipped or be tipped with either nuclear or conventional payloads would say that he's at least signaling that he'd be willing to put nukes on the table.
Well, and it's also a signal to the West, too, isn't it? I mean, the United States doesn't have that kind of weapon in its arsenal. The Russians and the Chinese do.
Well, the fact that he would have used a hypersonic weapon on this target, if he did so, wasn't necessary for the target. It could have been taken out by a conventional payload. But it tells me a couple of things that also, as your former reporter noted, this war has not gone anywhere near the way that Putin had expected it to. Ukraine didn't roll over as most of the world had expected, or not. They expected this to go very quickly. No one anticipated the level of fighting back that Ukrainians have done, and he's in for a long slog now. And it tells me that if he indeed used a hypersonic, he's pulling out everything in his arsenal. There was a reason, I think, early on he didn't take out the power grid. He didn't take out all the aircraft parked on ramps. He didn't take out those ammunition depots. He assumed this was going to be an easy walk in the park, and he wanted to preserve those assets for his own use later. Now he knows he's in for the long haul.
Your fellow Republican in Congress, Michael McCall, says the prospect of Putin using chemical or biological weapons is very real. I want you to listen to this, and I'll get your reaction.
I've raised this in very high-level briefings that they need to start thinking about this because when that does happen, what is going to be our response? It's classic, this administration. They wait, and then they react. Like, the Russians have been on the border since last March, building up, and I urged them in November to put the lethal weapons in. Now they're just coming in, and they're going to get caught flat-footed.
Do you have the same concerns about Putin using chemical or biological weapons?
Oh, I absolutely do. I mean, he's proven historically that he's willing to use anything at his disposal. And I think backed into a corner, and he's made it clear that if he ever feels threatened, that he would use any weapon in his arsenal.
I want to play this from Senators Roger Marshall and Steve Daines. Listen to their remarks on the situation there.
We listened to Ukrainian lawmakers today pleading for the weapons that they've been promised. They've told they've got nothing from the United States so far.
You don't do what this administration did, where they promised the MiG-29s in one sentence and then denied them later on. That timidity, that lack of moral clarity actually demonstrates weakness, and our NATO allies sense that.
Those are the MiG-29s, former Soviet jets that Poland now has and has offered to the Ukrainians. You're a former naval aviator. Would those jets be useful in Ukrainian hands?
Personally, I don't think that the idea of the no-fly zone is a good idea for us. Those particular weapons, Ukraine still has a number of aircraft at their disposal. It could be used. I think that would be a serious escalation, and I'm not sure that it's the weapon of choice. I think the sophisticated air defense systems, the Stinger missiles, the things that we are providing, and are being used effectively are a better measure to take out that air threat that they're facing.